This is Steve Englehart.
Before we get started, this gentleman who created the Joker is here at Comic-Con. He not only created the Joker, he created so many great characters. Let's really give a Comic-Con welcome for
Psychopath, you decide. You all know why you're here. The conference was formed in 1992 by myself and Randy Duncan as a way to bring scholars and professionals together to talk about comics with the public. We have a disc with presentations from the conference from this year and going back several years. And down in the Comic-Con boutique, we have a nice graffiti shirt with our brick. On the back it says, "It's scholarin' time." And so, without further ado, I'm going to be managing some of the tech stuff. I'm going to turn it over to Robin and Travis.
I was going to introduce them, but I thought, I'd rather they introduce themselves anyway. If we'll start that at the end, just tell each of them who you are and what the heck you have to do with this topic.
My name is Robin Rosenberg. I'm a clinical psychologist and editor of the book Psychology of Superheroes. And I was a nerd as a kid, except I didn't realize what it was at the time. So I grew up reading Batman stories. And when I became a psychologist, I looked at them anew with my kids and realized, wow, there's a lot of psychology in these stories. So I write textbooks and I think of superhero stories as a wonderful opportunity to reveal psychological truths about human nature. And thanks to Pete and Travis for the opportunity to do that with the Joker.
Looks like I'm Dr. Travis Langley. Like Robin, I'm a psychologist. She's a clinical psychologist. I'm a psychology professor. I do research on psychology and comics fans. Jerry Robinson, Lee mentioned, he created the Joker response. Here, Jerry. You respond to know about yourself real quick.
I'm not a psychologist. Or a psychopath.
Yeah!
Well, I guess we'll talk about it.
Okay, you're not here. I'm three people, which I think is appropriate for this kind of panel. I am an 8-year-old kid inside who loves Batman, and Batman was my favorite superhero because he had no superpowers, because his greatest superpower is his humanity. Number two, I'm a 13-year-old kid who was at the very, very, very first comic book convention ever held anywhere. July '64, Fleabag Hotel on the Bowery in New York. There were 200 of us there. And number three, I am executive producer of movies from Batman through The Dark Knight.
I have several characters. You may recognize me as Bruce Wayne. And also Batman in the television series in the first Batman movie. As Mayor West. Deepest psyche of Joker. I don't have a contribution. What do I know? I just do it.
And then we have one person on phone and webcam. As awkward as it is, we can hold the phone where he can introduce himself.
All right, Steve, I'm going to hold the phone up. Go ahead.
Steve, just introduce yourself.
Are you still there? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I'm Steve Englehart, and I'm up in Northern California, and not the easiest thing in the world to hear what y'all are doing, but it sounds like you're having a good time. I wish I could listen to those other people. Batman was always my favorite character, and when I got a chance to write him, I tried to do something that I could be happy with, and seems to work out, so I'm just glad to be in the same company as the rest of these people.
Turn the floor over to Robin to explain a few psychological concepts that you're going to decide what you think they have to do with the Joker, if anything. And you realize, at one end, we have Robin. At the other end, we have Batman.
My name brought out a lot of that from TV shows. Okay. Is this working? Oh, yes. Okay, good. Okay. So, let's first address the question, why do people engage in criminal behavior? Certainly, Joker replies to that question. First, sometimes the behavior is unintentional, so someone accidentally blows up a gas main. Sometimes they got into a crowd. They didn't mean to do it, but they just kind of got swept away. Sometimes they're rebellious or angry at society. Sometimes they need the money or object if they're stealing. These are trees, things, and diamonds. Sometimes they're enticed by risky behavior. Then you've got a whole different breed. They're the psychopaths, and when asked why they do it, they say, just because, or why not, or it's fun. They're in a totally different category. So before we investigate that a little bit more, I just want to make a distinction between psychotic and psychopathy. They're often confused because they both start with psycho. Psychotic, someone who's psychotic is out of touch with reality because of hallucinations or delusions. So they may perceive something that's not there, or it's a distortion of what's actually there, so they may hear voices no one else hears, and those aren't voices, they're earbuds. They may see things that aren't there or are a distortion of what's there. This is a drug-induced distortion from Batman Begins, so which is kind of a different thing than really being psychotic. And then the other three senses can have distortions or hallucinations. And then there's delusions, which are erroneous beliefs that continue despite evidence to the contrary. And there can be themes to delusions. So they can have delusions of grandeur, which is you think you're someone famous, or grand, like Peter Coogan with the TV show, or Maxie Zeus in the comics. You can have paranoid delusions, which is people think they're out to get me, and they're actually not. And delusions of control, which is when people think that others are trying to control their mind, and they're not. So that's psychotic, just to be clear. Joker, occasionally there are storylines where he evidences a hallucination or two, or a delusion, but on the whole, most stories don't really portray him as psychotic. Then you've got psychopathy, and that's the other kettle of fish. So you've got characteristics that are emotional, interpersonal, and lifestyle, and these three types of characteristics give rise to a pattern of antisocial behavior. So let's talk a bit more about that. Just a warning. We're going to talk about the Joker in fun and sort of psychopathy. In fact, in real life, it requires a lot of extensive training to diagnose people with psychopathy. So when you leave here, you are not qualified to diagnose your friends or family members. So I just want to make clear, okay? Just it's not a class on psychopathy. Okay. So as we go through this, feel free to keep in mind your most favorite version of your Joker or the Joker you like least, and see whether you think that he's a psychopath. So there's a psychologist, Robert Hare, who's done a lot of research on psychopathy. his entire adult life, professional life, and he's basically divides them into two main areas or clusters of characteristics. There's the interpersonal on the left and the social deviance on the right. Those are the personal. And then those are subdivided. So let's first look at interpersonal characteristics. Psychopaths are glib and superficially charming. They are full of themselves. They pathologically lie just for fun, just to see what happens. And they manipulate others.
Question, Robin.
Yes.
Are you sure this is about the Joker and not about certain Hollywood executives?
They're not mutually exclusive. So for those of you who can't read it, this is from the great Clayface Joker feud. And the Joker's dressed up like Clayface to impersonate him, and he says, "I wanted you here so that I could prove to Clayface that even without his power, I still could duplicate his feats and outsmart you, whereas he couldn't continue as the Joker when he tried to mimic me, ha ha." So that illustrates some of the interpersonal qualities, not so much the charm, but definitely the grandiose self-worth. He was pathologically lying to everyone while he was doing this, and he was manipulating his experience with Batman and Robin to get back at Clayface. Then you've got your emotional cluster, where the psychopaths don't feel any remorse or guilt. They have shallow feelings, so they're actually very dramatic, and their emotions change easily, but they're like theatrical actors. Their feelings don't run deep, they're kind of putting them on. They're proto-feelings, if you will. They're callous emotionally and they're not very empathic, and they don't accept responsibility for actions that go awry. They accept responsibility for the good things as part of their grandiosity, but when things go wrong, it's never their fault. So this is from The Killing Joke, and the Joker has shot Commissioner Gordon's daughter, left her for dead, really done horrific things to Commissioner Gordon, and he says to Batman, "You see, it doesn't matter if you catch me and send me back to the asylum. Gordon's been driven mad. I've proved my point." And so this illustrates definitely the lack of remorse and guilt. Shallow feelings are not captured quite by that. Definitely a lack of empathy, and then the responsibility part so manifests in that. Third cluster is lifestyle. They get bored incredibly easily, and they just do things to amuse themselves, to shake things up, just to see what can happen. They prey and live off of others. They don't have realistic long-term goals. So for Joker, he may have a caper, an idea that he's planning, but it's not realistically planned out. And their psychopaths are impulsive and irresponsible.
Mother McGinty, it's Joker. In police headquarters? The nerve.
Naughty, naughty, Commissioner. Let's keep your blue-coated buffoons outside.
What do you want here, Joker?
Oh, just passing the time, Commissioner, as I did all those months in prison after those caped cabbage heads were lucky enough to apprehend me.
Luck had nothing to do with it, Joker. Your warped criminal mind is no match for the wits of Batman and Robin. They'll outsmart you every time.
A stroke of luck, I tell you.
So that's one incarnation of the Joker. Let me show you a couple more.
Good morning, Mr. Francis. Please allow me to introduce my associate. We gentlemen of business have arrangements to discuss.
Arrangements?
For my fish, of course. This has all been worked out far in advance, Francis. Merely the last tiny cog in my grand design. So don't speak to me again, okay? Now, what is everyone in town talking about?
Your fish?
I told you not to speak! As I was saying, since every fish in Gotham now bears my famous and frankly fabulous face, I should be getting a profit from every fish product sold. Millions of dollars a day to finance my happily hedonistic lifestyle. So, which of your tedious copyright forms do I fill out first? You may speak now.
No one can copyright fish. They're a natural resource. I can't help it. It's the law.
Oh, trying to cheat the Joker, are you? Well, we'll see who has the last laugh. You have until midnight to change your mind, Francis.
I do want to point out that one reason we have Steve on the phone is because he wrote the story that that specific cartoon was lifted from.
Great. So here's Steve. And then the last one is from The Dark Knight. I apologize for the poor quality video. I got it off YouTube.
Do things. The mob has plans. The cops have plans. Gordon's got plans. You know, they're schemers. Schemers trying to control their little worlds. I'm not a schemer. I try to show the schemers how pathetic their attempts to control things really are. So, when I say, come here, when I say that you and your girlfriend was nothing personal, you know that I'm telling the truth.
A little darker version. We can debate about whether his version of the joke is actually impulsive, but nonetheless. Okay, so just to review the lifestyle issues, you can see the need for stimulation and prone to boredom. Cesar Romero, that was true. Frazen lives off of others, lack of realistic long-term goals, and impulsive and irresponsible. And the last category are the behaviors that are a result of these three types of traits. Difficulty controlling behavior, those problems begin at a young age. They're often juvenile delinquents. If they're released from prison early, it's revoked because they disobeyed conditions. And they engage in different types of criminal behavior, so they may kill people and also steal. So, in sum, just again, lies, exploits, manipulates, narcissists, no empathy or remorse, they blame others for their problems, easily bored, and impulsive and irresponsible. All right, so just keep this in mind as we hear from our panelists, and then we hear from you, your thoughts about whether the Joker is a psychopath. These are just a review. And if you're really interested in psychopathy, there are two books by Robert Hare for the general public, and I highly recommend both of them. If you think you or someone in your family or friend is a psychopath, you might want the book on the right. That's sort of the ones that walk around every day and are, killing people. Okay, thanks very much.
We bring them up here to waste their time with technical issues. I wanted to get back to the issue of psychotic very briefly just for a moment because of how it relates to the lack of diagnosis of the Joker in the comics ever since Denny O'Neill's era of writing the series. And a specific term has been used for the Joker, insane. And psychotic is not the same thing, and psychotic is definitely not the same thing as psychopath, as Robin pointed out. Hallucinations and delusions aren't the only symptoms. There's a wide variety of psychotic symptoms having to do with bizarre behavior, bizarre actions, and bizarre emotional states. Insanity is a legal term, not a psychiatric term. How many of you attended the forensic psychiatry panel at Arkham Asylum? Okay, a few of you.
I got you.
What? Oh, okay. Yeah, how many of you were actually on? All right, so a couple of you. Most of you, you've got to yourselves. You can get to hear what we say. Insanity refers to a wide variety of things throughout its history. Throughout most of the history of the term, impulsiveness and irrationality were the main defining criteria. It's been altered. The main issue is the person, due to severe mental defect, unable to appreciate the real world meaning of their actions, the rightness and wrongness. You could be psychotic and be legally sane. Just because you hear voices telling you to kill Bob doesn't mean you can still be found not guilty beyond reason of insanity any more than if your neighbor were telling you, go kill Bob. If you recognize I should kill Bob, regardless of whether it's a real person or an imaginary.